welcome back to another episode of the Reselling Niche podcast. Today's reseller niche, soccer or football jerseys and apparel. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Reseller Niche podcast, a show for e-commerce buyers and sellers where we investigate unique items being bought and sold and show you how research equals knowledge equals profit.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to be a little bit more selfish in this podcast moving forward. And by this, I mean I'm going to be discussing topics that I'm really into or I'm actually dealing with at the moment or I just want to talk about. So soccer, football, this genre, I guess, is something I'm really into. It's something that actually I've talked about in the past, a little bit on this show. Side note, back in the day, I'm talking about 2004, I actually had a soccer podcast. It only lasted maybe 4 or 5 episodes. It's called Soccer Gossip. I didn't stay with it, which is a really, that's one of the things I regret because I who knows what it would have been now. But it was something that was fun, something I enjoyed, and I just didn't have anyone to talk back and forth with, so I think that's why I ended it. Every now and then I'll still get a message from somebody saying, hey, did you ever do that one podcast back in the day or whatever? I don't even have the recordings anymore of it. It was on a different server. So anyways, I digress. But one thing to note, even doing a podcast back then was not difficult at all. Even listing it, marketing it was a little bit more difficult because nobody knew what they were. But making one was nearly as simple as it is today. But anyways, let's move forward. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about soccer, football stuff? Mainly, I guess, it would be jerseys. I'm a big fan of soccer, and actually, I don't actually sell. I shouldn't say don't sell. I don't go looking just to sell soccer jerseys. A lot of them that I have, I own, I just kind of collect. I have a huge collection of England and Manchester United jerseys and some other teams as well. Going back into probably the late 80s. I have an aunt that actually for years and years, every single year would send me the latest Man U jersey. And she stopped recently, probably because I'm too old for that, but it's something that I probably have about 30 jerseys. And what I find that's interesting about that is I would kind of equate it, soccer in general, to baseball, I guess, in the US, in the sense that you got so many different teams and then you have subdivisions. You got your minor league, your AAA, AA, single A. Then you've got even leagues below that, like leagues below leagues, and leagues on top of leagues, different cups and all that kind of stuff. So that's what makes it really interesting. So I'm going to dive a little bit into that and see what I prefer to buy and what I prefer to sell when it comes to jerseys. And it's not only jerseys actually, but we'll kind of go from that. First of all, I'm going to talk about a shirt that I saw sold very recently. I don't know if it's a bootleg or not. It was a Hard Rock Cafe jersey. It was, let me pull it up really fast. It is a Hard Rock Cafe in the front. I'm looking at it right now. And it has Buenos Aires underneath it. It sold for $100. And on the back, I'm sure the reason it said Hard Rock Cafe and number 10. Now, Buenos Aires, you're talking about Argentina, number 10. This jersey looked circa 1990s-ish. So you're probably talking about Diego Maradona. So a lot of times with jerseys, if they don't have the rights for the team or the specific player, they'll use the number or they'll use the colors and they'll kind of get something close to it. So I think that's what they did here. The colors aren't right. They're not Argentina colors. It's like dark blue and gray and white. But that Buenos Aires, the number 10, I was able to put Diego Maradona inside the title and the description. and so people kind of connect the two together, and it sold pretty fast. It was a $2 pickup at the thrift store, and something to look out for. So with this type of jersey, it's not even a team jersey. Hard Rock Cafe, I mean, unless they have like a store team for Buenos Aires, they're not a professional team. But a lot of companies and restaurants, charity events, they'll make jerseys and shirts, just like I've seen a lot of charity baseball shirts. That's why I keep going back to baseball, because there's a lot of similarities there. But with soccer jerseys, the cool thing is it's worldwide. You can get them from towns you've never heard of, cities you've never heard of, companies you've never heard of, but they can look kind of cool, and they usually mimic whatever the style of the times are. So like this right here, when I'm looking at this jersey, it's got like diamonds, kind of a diamond design, very kind of late 1990s, mid 1990s design that was used in like the English, English Premier League back then. And a lot of teams would have used that same style. Even the cut is kind of a tighter cut, kind of a more athletic cut, not a huge jersey. So anyways, looking out for merchandising jerseys, shirts, whatever you want to call them, is a really, really good idea. The reason I like this shirt specifically, and I'm kind of going off here on a tangent, is it was Hard Rock Cafe, it was Buenos Aires, it was number 10, it was definitely a vintage shirt. And so you have multiple things to list there. Now, one thing I want to add here is Hard Rock Cafe is one of those companies that I've heard, I haven't experienced it, but I've heard that they, on eBay, they kind of come after you for Veros. So I was a little hesitant to buy this one at first because I saw that. I just thought it was a really, really cool shirt, so I did. So certain companies, you want to be careful with Veros and double check. I did check, and there were a couple that had sold, but it was kind of a rare looking shirt, so that's why I picked it up, and it sold fast. So definitely look out for merchandising type soccer jerseys. And that was actually going to be at the end of my list there, but I put it at the front only because I'm looking at the picture right now. So anyways, let's go to regular jerseys, like your standard jersey that you'd see at any sporting goods store right now. Now, why are those interesting? Well, obviously, every year to 2 years they come out with a new jersey, and sometimes 3 or 4. Like I have the away kit, and I have a second away kit, and a second home jersey, whatever. But what's interesting about soccer jerseys, slightly different from some other sports, is that they'll have, most countries or most teams will have sponsors on the front. And by that, I mean, it'll literally have it'll say across the front, it'll say like Ford or DHL or, any company names. And some companies you've never even heard of. And I think that's a little strange for American sports because you don't really have that right across the front. You usually have that somewhere else in the stadium or something like that. But the sponsor across the front of the shirt is a good tell on what year that jersey was made in, and a way to actually double check and see if, is this new jersey? Is it an old jersey? Is it, vintage? Is actually, strangely enough, Wikipedia. Wikipedia is really, really good for looking up soccer jerseys and apparel and finding out, what is this? Like, I'm going to go into one right now. I'm a Manchester United fan. So if you go to Wikipedia, look up Manchester United, on the right-hand side, right away, you'll see it will have home, away, and third colors for jerseys right under their logo and like the stats on the team. So if you scroll down a little bit more, obviously it has all the history and everything. But what's cool is it has something called kit evolution. So you can see the different colors and how it's changed, because they're basically red and white and a little bit of yellow. And those are their colors. But if you go back all the way through, you can see that they had, green in there, some blue, some black, and, different styles too, stripes, solids, kind of big, fat, solid stripes as well. And then even if you go down further, where is it? Pretty much towards the end there, it actually has a part where it talks about the the sponsorships. Where is that? And you can see based on the year who sponsored. Okay, so sponsorships, like it says 1945, 1975. This kit manufacturer is Umbro, pretty standard sponsor for English teams until pretty recently. And then it goes through, 75 to 80, Admiral. So you can go through all the years and see, okay, so if I got this shirt and it says, Nike on the front, most likely that's a very recent shirt from 2002 to 2015. And then not only that, they have a kit sponsor and they'll have a shirt sponsor, two different things. Shirt sponsor is across the chest. The kit sponsor is maybe on the arm or like a logo, a little logo on the top right or top left. So the shirt sponsor is the one that will throw you off. Like Manchester United they have Chevrolet right now is their sponsor. But like they had Aon or is it Ion and AIG back in 2006 to 2010. So you can go through and then you can find out, okay, this shirt is from this year based on just that. And Wikipedia is probably a really, really good source for that. Obviously, you can go to the team site, but some smaller teams don't have team sites that are updated as much. But that is something I found that I wouldn't have thought of at first, just to go there to find out all that info. But it's really in depth if you're trying to find out, okay, what is this shirt? When is it from? Is it vintage? Is it, whatever it is? So the next thing I would say, like all other major sporting jerseys, apparels, there's a lot of fakes out there. There's fakes and there's bootlegs. So I talked about a kind of a bootleg before, merchandising type bootleg, I guess. But a fake, this is a tough one. One thing I look at first of all is a tag, obviously. Does it have the tag? And then like using a site like Wikipedia or something like that, you can see, is it made by the right person? Like, okay, this is 2006, it should be made by Nike. Does it say, Umbro? Does it say, Adidas, Reebok? Does it say nothing? A lot of times it'll say made in China or something like that, and that will be the tag. There's dead giveaways, and there's some that are harder to find. A lot of times with soccer jerseys, what I found is they will have the team as part of the kind of, instead of where the tag should say like Nike, it will say like the team name, and the lettering will be off. It won't be perfect. Just like looking for fakes in any other, not even jersey, just anything else, any highly made brand of clothing. Look for the way it's stitched. Look for the way, does it go the whole way across? If you look at the back, does it have the year on the back? Does it have, where was it made? All this kind of stuff you can look at. Usually a dead giveaway is if it's got no tag at all, and it will just have like a little tiny tag that will just have the size, like extra large, and that's it. That's probably the easiest, because there are so many fakes out there. I gotta let you know, maybe in the US it's not as prevalent because there aren't probably as many soccer jerseys sold here, at least European ones, but in Europe it's a huge problem for them. It's a big counterfeiting problem. So be careful of fakes. Obviously if it has tags and everything, that's a little bit more helpful, but fakes are out there and they're real, and you don't want to mess with a Nike or even actually these teams. A lot of times the teams will, they don't take likely to someone selling a fake version of their jersey. So that's something I would really, really, really look for. So moving forward, another thing I like to stress is looking at things that are not normal, not the original, not the most common thing. What do I mean by that? I mean, like I keep going back to baseball here, like minor league baseball teams. I'm a big fan of selling minor league apparel, hats, jerseys, that kind of stuff. Same thing with soccer. And by minor league, I mean, like we'll take the US, for example. One of my favorite genres to sell in is anything US soccer. And we can break that down even further. US soccer, modern US soccer, like the MLS right now, Major League Soccer, goes back to, I believe, 1996. Any of those early 2000s, late 1990s jerseys are gold. They really, really are. Reason being, obviously, they made less of them. I mean, the league was just beginning. It was kind of something where a lot of the team names were changing. For example, if I'm from the Bay Area, originally it was called the San Jose Clash. Then they changed to the Earthquake. So Clash stuff does pretty well because they don't exist anymore. And then there are teams that have gone defunct all over the years. Now, USA soccer in general has an interesting, like any country, they've had whole leagues go defunct. Like the most famous one for the NACL, North American Soccer League. It was around from the 60s to like the mid 80s. If you find any stuff kind of related to that, it's really, really good. One caveat to that is there was a second North American Soccer League. There's a second NASL, which was not related to the first one that went bankrupt in 1984. This one started in the early 2011, 2017, so it's very recent. If you find something that has one of those teams, it's obviously not going to be worth as much as, a 60s, 70s, 80s jersey. So do your research on what you're looking at. And, so you don't, I'm sure there's money in those jerseys as well for those teams, because a lot of those teams are not around anymore. But make sure that you know what you're looking at, basically. So I'm a big fan of NASL stuff, anything you can find, not even just jerseys. I'm going to go into a little bit more about other than jerseys after this, but I always mix this up, NASL had a lot of cool logos, a lot of I love the team logos that they used, a lot of the team names. Also, a great thing is the keywords when it comes to this stuff. You're talking about a league that had Pele, Beckenbauer, George Best, these huge superstars. It'd be like the equivalent of, LeBron James going right now and playing in the European Basketball League or something like that. It's super keywords that you can use to, if you were to get, I believe it was I'm blanking on the names. The New York Cosmos. There's a great documentary in the Cosmos. There's probably a few of them, but a really, really good one on Netflix, I believe. And they talk about the Cosmos and how they got all this basically huge world superstar team. Anyway, long story short, there's so many good players that you can list, and having a Pele New York Cosmos jersey, I think would sell pretty well. Okay, so moving forward from the 60s, 70s, 80s, kind of more recent, say 90s and forward, USA soccer apparel is huge. Specifically, my favorite actually is to find, other than MLS stuff, is USA men's apparel. The first time they made the World Cup, since the 50s, was 1994. So 94 and 98 jerseys are really, really good to find. They're really actually cool designs. I believe I always mix up the 94 and 98, but they have these very distinct 90s colors. The 94 jersey is probably my favorite. It kind of has a jean looking look to it. And what I like to look for, there's a couple things, not just the jerseys. If you can find the jackets and the shorts, the jackets specifically, the warm-up jacket. The 1994 one is very distinct, has it's really white and red and blue. And then I believe it's the 94 away jacket, maybe it's a 98 jacket. If you look at that one, no, I think it's a 94 jacket. It's kind of a faux denim look, and it's kind of, let me see if I can find one right here. Okay, I've got one right here. It's got big USA in the back. The sleeves are red and white, and then it's got the whole blue part is like a fake denim type thing. I found one at a thrift for $45, $50, and I bought it on the spot. It sold within like 2 days for like close to 180, I believe. I'm looking at one right now. It's listed for $179.99. So that's exactly, and it will sell for that. So 150 to 200, that range right there. If you could find that, this like an ultimate USA bolo would be the denim. I don't know what to even call it. I would think denim, faux denim, 1994 World Cup jacket or World Cup warm-up jacket. That all that 90s stuff is gold, and you can tell by looking at it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the basketball dream team jerseys that are out there. That kind of look and style to it. Very bright, very big. The colorways are really cool, and I would, if you see any of that stuff, pick it up. And it's hard to fake that kind of stuff too. Usually that's not faked as much, but obviously double check. So that would be, that's probably my funnest pickup, US men's soccer pickup that I found. Other things that I've found recently are, I think it was an Eric Winalda jersey. And another one was, what was his name? Oh, Brian McBride. And this was, I wasn't even sure what the brand, I couldn't figure out what this was. It said McBride across the back. It was probably a circa late 90s MLS jersey. And I mean, it just looked worn out and beaten, but it went for like $120. So any of this old MLS stuff is really, really, really good. So it's not even, so like I said, though, it's not just the jerseys. If you can find the jackets, the shorts, the warm-up pants too, those are really cool. So not just that, the women's stuff actually does pretty well too. Obviously they won the World Cup in the 90s, and they've won it since then as well. So they're actually done a lot better than the guys have. So some of that 90s stuff is really cool too. So moving on from actually jerseys and stuff, if you can find even tickets, like I'm doing a search right now. If you type in the word, what is it? Just soccer cards or soccer tickets. Baseball cards, are kind of the big thing again. They kind of have a resurgence. I'm not big on sports cards, but obviously the Panini Prism in soccer is huge too. And you can find a lot of stuff. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to go into cards too much, but if you can find any of this stuff, and it's relatively new, I'm talking about 2018, 19, 2020, this stuff seems to be going for good money. I don't have any sports cards. One thing I do have are tickets. I have old tickets that I had that I actually used to when I went to games. So those, if you can get those, and you can even grade those. People are grading tickets. I'm looking at right now, Mason Greenwood, 2019 Panini Contenders rookie ticket, and it's cracked ice, and it's going for what, I don't know what it went for, because they took the best offer, but just under 20,000. So even tickets, you can get those graded right now, and those go for good money. But I'm not going to go into that because I don't know too much about that. But what I do know a little bit about is other things like scarves, flags, pins. I recently sold a watch. It's just a plastic, cheap-looking watch. It looked like from probably the early 2000s. That went for $65 to Indonesia, and I think it was just one. I don't think I bought it. I think I just had it from years ago. But it looked really like a child's watch almost. But it had a reflector thing, matched a reflector on the top, and that went within, I'd say, about 30 days, and went for $65. So I thought that was pretty good. And then another thing that I'm huge on, this is for any sport, are pennants. Like, your standard 30-inch triangle pennant. And this is where I love things like early MLS or NASL pennants, like early soccer league, US soccer league stuff, because they have the coolest logos. Some of these go for I've sold one for $150. Like, some of them will sit, just so you know. Pennants are kind of a weird thing. Like, you could sell one within 24 hours, or you could wait a year to sell it. But what I like about it is it's pretty easy to pack. You just find a flat box and just support it. It's pretty big. It's 30 inches. I'm probably going to do a video on pennants specifically because I'm a big fan of selling. They're not just baseball, all sports. even not even sports, sometimes cities. And, well, I'll go into that later. But if you get early soccer league pennants, even World Cup pennants, they do really, really well. And sometimes you can pick them up at thrift stores for like $0.25 a piece. I've done that before. And if you list them right, picture them correctly, and then make sure that you picture the stains correctly, then holes, a lot of them are wool or like thin cotton, and it's felt type material, then they do really, really well. So wrapping up here, what I would like to do actually is, before I wrap up, I just want to ask, we do have a comment section on the, anchor.fm/reseller niche. If you click on that, you can leave us a voice message, and with questions or comments, whatever. I'd love to know if you've bought or sold anything to do with soccer or football, anything at all. Even if you have a question, please leave us a message. We may play it on air though, just so you know. So if you're interested in that, please check out our website, click on message or leave a message, and then we'd love to hear from you. And but my main thing about this is look for the strange, look for the unusual, look for the weird stuff. Maybe I do that with everything I buy, but like random cities, random, there could be a defunct soccer team. It could be even the company on the front of the jersey is defunct, no longer around, and then that's why it's there. People that like buy old postcards that have a picture of, Manhattan, and it's got a shot of an old car that's, from the 50s or whatever. Stuff that's not there, people like to see because you can't get it back. And, teams that are out of, maybe you lived in that city years ago, maybe you followed that team and they're no longer around. That's the kind of stuff I like to look for. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Please leave us a message, like I said. Check out our Facebook forum, Reselling Niche Help. And if you have any questions, drop me a line here, or I need to include our email in here somewhere. I'll do that one of these days. But for now, thanks, and thanks for listening to the Reselling Niche Podcast. Until the next one, have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Reseller Niche Podcast. Show notes and social media links are located at resellerniche.com. Please comment, rate, and subscribe to us on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.